everybody, Crystal Gamer here, and welcome to my Sims channel and to a new video where we are going to be having a little tutorial on photography. We're going to go over a few different things today, namely lighting, composition, and we may touch on a little bit of color. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And as you can see here, we have a lovely box, and within that box, we have a little bit of a set. Now it's kind of dark right now on purpose because we are going to light that set. Now it does have a couple of windows. So the first thing we're going to talk about is window lighting. As you can see, this window lighting casts a little bit of ambient light. Now, there's a few important things to know about Sims window lighting because it does not work exactly like real life exterior lighting. So it will cast some shadows like the ones that we see over here. So we have some shadows that it casts, and it does cast some ambient light. You can see there's kind of a circle of light here. And if you're having trouble seeing it, I'll delete those two. And you can see there goes that circle of light. And so when I add one in, we can see the circle of light here and the other little one up top here. It adds to the light, not too much because it doesn't add in a whole bunch. But so you can see that that adds some ambient light. Now I've set up this scene in this way because I want this side to be a little bit shadowed on the right-hand side, and I'm going to put all the light on the left-hand side. So I'm trying to create some dynamic shadows. This is a little bit challenging to do in The Sims because though the Sims lighting engine is good, it is not perfect. It does not entirely match real life. As good as it is, does not entirely match real life, but we're going to see what we can do with it. So, all right, I have a little table here. Obviously, I have my Sim. I have my chair. I am going to pose him sitting on the chair. Now, one thing of note is I'm going to use Andrew's pose player to pose the Sim. Now, you don't necessarily need that. You could just sit the Sim down and hope that he makes a good pose or something like that. But I personally prefer to use Andrew's pose player. If you're not familiar with it and want to learn how to use it, there will be a link to that below. I have a full tutorial on it. It's really not hard to use. And it doesn't mess with anything else in your game. Like it doesn't make any CC or anything like that. So yeah, if you're interested in using that, I'm going to be using Andrew's pose player to pose him over here. So, okay, every time I move anything, he moves if I pose him. So I'm just going to leave him where he is for right now. And we're just going to kind of imagine that he's sitting there. We're going to talk about adding in some lighting. So I have this table here and I want to add a light in on this table. Now, different lighting in The Sims casts a different glow. And this is an important thing to know when you're lighting a scene. You want to kind of get a feel for what type of light you want. If you choose pretty much any of the candle lights, you're going to see what is kind of a warm sort of either yellow or orange type glow. So that creates a warm glow. There are other lights, like say this one, for instance, that have a much cooler glow. I'm hoping that shows up on the video and you can see the difference between those two, but this is much cooler. It's a white light versus kind of like a yellow or orange light like the candles might be. Now, the light that I picked for this is kind of a warm light. It's sitting over here, and I'm going to just throw it on this desk. And I thought that it casts a warm glow, not quite as warm as the candles, but it casts a pretty warm glow. And it looks pretty good sitting on that table there. So I'm going to use that. Now, for other lighting, we have our Sims photography lighting. Now, there's two different types of excellent photography lighting in The Sims. They come from the Mosquito stuff pack and the Get Famous stuff pack. If you have neither of those packs, not stuff pack, expansion pack, whatever, you guys know what I mean. Nonetheless, if you don't have either of those packs, you're going to have some challenges because these two packs are the ones that create or have direct lighting. And by direct lighting, I mean lighting like this that you can set where it's going to go, where the light is going to fall. All of your other lighting from your other packs is more like this type of lighting, you know, where it just sort of casts this ambient light or this round glow around the light or something like that. So you'll have a little bit of a harder time finding light like that works real well. There is some overhead track lighting you might be able to use. What pack is that from? That's Get Famous too. This here is some Get Famous lighting for light that you can control. This one here is what is that? City Living. So, and this is light that you can control the direction of and all of that. That's the big thing. You need light that you can control the direction of. This one is a base game, studio track lighting. So this you might have some control over, but if you have either Get Famous or Mosquito, this is the easiest lighting you have to use. So the lighting that I have up front here, this softbox, this is called a softbox in photography. It's a relatively large softbox, but this one here, the umbrella light, these softboxes and umbrella lights are designed to prevent really harsh glows on skin and stuff like that. It's designed to soften the light. And then we have this kind of stage lighting over here that you can also use because you can direct the lighting. Then this lighting back here is Mosquito Lighting. Now, if you have Mosquito, this lighting is actually easier to work with than the Get Famous lighting, only because you can move this stuff in game. Like you can take it and move it, and I'm actually not in live mode. That's why it's not working right. You can take it in live mode and move this lighting. So that is a huge benefit. And if you want to turn it, you can use greater than or less than, and it'll turn it. So all of these lights here, I have several of the same lights out. These are all Mosquito lights. And so I can use them in live mode, which is very helpful. So I highly recommend the Mosquito pack, which I can't believe I'm saying that, because when it first came out, I didn't think it was going to be a very good pack, like before it came out. And when it came out, it's honestly one of my favorite packs, probably because I'm a photographer. So that's a thing. But in any case, you can see I have some different colors here. Now, if you don't know how to change colors of lighting, basically you click on the light and it's got a thing for set color, light, and intensity. And then you can tell it this light, all lights, or this room. Now, one thing to note about this is if you turn headline effects off, which is the plumb bob above the sim, if you go into cheats, which is Control-Shift-C, most of you probably know this, and you bring up this box up here and you turn on testing cheats true, you can turn headline effects off to get rid of the plumb bob. And if you do that, you then cannot change the color, light, and intensity. If I click this light, it just does nothing. So because my headline effects are off, I have no plumb bob over my guy. My headline effects are off because I don't want a plumb bob during the photographies. That's why I have a few of these out here that are already colored. Now, blue is a cooler tone, orange is a much warmer tone, and pink tends to be a little bit warmer as well. The blue and orange will sort of cancel each other out to a degree, but not entirely. So depending what tone you want to look for in your photos. And you can change the color and intensity on any of the lighting, just so you're aware. So that is something to pay attention to. So the other big thing is, where does the lighting fall? So that's the big thing you're looking for. So if I take this light over here, and I'm going to turn it so that it's up against this wall, you can see this light. You can see exactly where it falls, how much light it casts. If I move it closer in, you can see that it sort of goes down into the small circle and it becomes more intense. As I take it further out, it starts to soften and widen. So paying attention to lighting is the important thing. Now, for this scene that we have over here, it has a light on the left. Like that's how I've set up this particular scene. And because I have the light on the left, if I seat the sim here, it's going to cast some light on him. I'll do that actually, just so you can see what it looks like. It'll cast some light on him, but it won't be nearly enough. So there, he's there, but there isn't nearly enough light on him at the moment. He definitely needs to be more lit up, but I want it to appear like the light is coming from this light. So in order to fool the viewer, I'm going to take one of these orange lights. And the reason that I'm using the orange color is because the light in the room is a warm color. So I'm going to stick that over there and I'm going to take a look around. I'm going to move this and see how it's falling on him. Now, what I'm looking at as I move this light around is I'm looking at his skin. And I'm seeing what's happening to his skin, what's happening to the chair behind him, what's happening to the wall, but most of all, his skin. Now, one thing that you're going to have to pay attention to, depending on the skin tone of your sims, if you're working with a black sim, you're going to have to use more intense lighting, but you won't have to worry about hotspots as much. And hotspots are like overexposed areas. So if you're dealing with a very white skin and a white-skinned sim, if you cast the light too close, you're going to end up with hot spots on the skin. So that's something that you want to watch for. So what I mean by that, actually, let's show you what I mean by that. I'm going to move this up close and put it on the sim. Let's get it just a little bit closer. Okay. So now if you look at this sim, hopefully you guys can see this on the video, but he's got some hot spots on his forehead up here, the cheek over here, a little bit on this cheek as well, his arm over here. This is a definite hot spot. And of course the watch is very, very overexposed. So we can see he's got a few hot spots. That's too much light on him, too close, too bright. It's just too much all around. So we don't want that. I am going to add in a white light, but I want to see where this light falls now. Though I am in live mode and I can turn this either this way or this way, those are big movements, really big movements, and they're not working for me. So I am going to go into build mode so I have a little bit more control in turning the light and exactly where the light falls. So I'm clicking on it. I'm holding Alt to move it around. I do have move objects on. I highly recommend always using move objects for stuff like this so you have more flexibility. G turns off the grid, by the way, in case anyone happens to not know that. I bet most people do, but just in case. So I'm going to turn this light and see. I think that's probably about right. My other goal is I'm trying to make sure that the light is not going to show in the photo. So I have to set the lights back far enough, and I'm going to throw another orange one here. And I am going to tone down this orange with some white, but I'm just adding in my initial lighting now. So you see what I'm looking at is how it's fallen on him and how it's fallen on the background. This one here, I'm setting up a little bit more for the background. If you watch the light, like if I have it this way, see how it's not lighting that sort of ladder thingy on the wall? If I move it over, it starts to light it more. I kind of want to light that area a little bit more, and I want to have just a little bit of light on those curtains in case they end up in the photo. So we've got him with some good lighting. Still a little bit dark. We're going to lighten him up with some white. This is my white light over here. And again, I'm keeping the light coming from the same direction because the light here that's going to actually be in the image is on this side. So I'm going to give the illusion that all the light is coming from this. And I want this set back far enough because this is my bright white light, and I can tone down the intensity if I want, but it's easier just to like this. This controls the intensity right there. You can see how much brighter it is when he's closer, when it's closer to him, and how much it sort of scales back as I move the light further away. So I basically check back and forth until I get the level of intensity that I want. Now let's see close up what he looks like. I don't see any hot spots, which is good. He's pretty well lit, but I feel like he could be a little bit more well lit. I'm going to try another light here. Add a little bit more in. See, that's killing some of the warmth, but I feel like I needed a little bit more on that side. So he looks pretty good, and still no hot spots, but he's definitely more well lit. Now I've got a pink and a blue light left here. I think I'm going to try the pink and see if I can add a little bit of pink tone. I don't want too much, which means I'm going to throw it back a little bit further and just kind of cast this glow a little bit over the sim. So that creates a nice warmth. That looks pretty good to me. So, okay, so that is working with lighting. And oh, by the way, something that I have not said yet is I've got daylight outside right now. If you don't want the light coming in and you don't want the ambient light from the windows for whatever reason, just switch to nighttime. Just go to nighttime. And of course, you can run the clock to go to nighttime, or the other thing that you can do is if you use MC Command Center, it has a time changer on it. So it can make life a little bit faster. But I think the light on him is pretty good. So I'm going to stick the knight here and pose him. Stick the knight from Andrew's Pose Player. So I do a search on TELEP to pull up the knight. I'm going to stick him right in the chair. And again, I have move objects on, so I'm able to do that without a problem. Go into live mode. Now the pose that I'm going to use is from Catverse. So I'm going to teleport him over There he goes over, and pose by pack. And I'm going to use cat versus living chair poses 2 for this. I'm choosing the all-in-one so I can have a few choices. Okay, so now we are all set. So let's see how he looks. So, all right, he looks pretty good. The scene looks pretty good. So now let's talk composition. Now we can go all the way back and take a photo of the scene. Obviously, we don't want the table leg, or the light leg, so we might bring it up a little bit. Now, there's a lot of ways though that you can do this. You can obviously go closer in, further out. One of the things to keep in mind when you're posing Sims and doing composition is it's a good idea to either choose to put the sim in the center or on one of the thirds. Now, by the thirds, I'm going to set this up real quick. All right, so I've got this photo set up. I'm going to take this. I think I'm very close to the third line because I've been a photographer for, I don't know, a couple of decades now. I'm giving away my age. But because I've been a photographer for so long, generally speaking, I can usually pick the third spot out pretty quickly, pretty easily just by eye. And I'm going to show you what that means right now. So I've got this sim here. I'm pretty happy with this composition. I'm going to take the shot and let's take a quick look at it in Photoshop with the thirds. Okay, so here's the photo I just took. Let me turn on the thirds right now and see what that looks like. Okay, so there's the thirds. I was off by a little bit. I didn't get it quite as on the third line as I could, but you can see these third lines, what I'm talking about. And you can see I've set him what the ideal thing would be to have this pretty much just like this. Let me get it in the right spot. Okay, so right about here is probably the best place, or just in this general vicinity. So it's not like it was very far off, but this crop is probably a little bit better. If I crop it down to here, this crop is probably a little bit better, and I actually like it better without having the window showing up top. So this puts him right on in that X of the third right there, which is a very good place to be photographically. When you put your subject on one of these X spots, it tends to make the photo more interesting than like just doing sort of a standard center shot or something like that. Center sometimes works really well. Center can be very profound in certain circumstances. But if you're doing something like this, it can often be nice to put it on one of the thirds for your composition. Now, the way I set this scene up, we can also change this around a little bit and maybe try something a little bit closer up. So I'm going to move in a little bit on him. So, all right, so we have that photo there. And there it is in Photoshop with my grid. And you can see, again, I got very close. I didn't get exact, but I got pretty close with having him on the third line. If I wanted him kind of exactly on the third line, I would take this down to about here. And there we go. Now he's in even more of the third line. And it's a pretty good looking image. It holds your interest because it's got that nice sort of composition where he's in the right place for the composition. Now let's switch position, see if maybe there's something else we can do with him. So, all right, he's got a little bit of a different position here. This is kind of interesting. Now, I almost wish that I could tilt the camera, but I can't. But I can sort of move the angle around to somewhere right around here and maybe make something a little bit interesting if I could get the camera in the right position. So what I'm looking for is a couple of diagonal lines, and unfortunately I can't hold the camera there and also show you the pointer, but he's got a nice line here with his arm, and he's got a nice body line going in this direction here. So what I'm looking to do is create a couple of diagonals with the composition. And I kind of don't want that table in there. So this isn't too bad. Yeah, like right about there. That's not too bad. We've got some good lines in this image here. So that's not a bad image. It looks pretty good. Let's see what else we can do. You can do a lot with one scene. Oh, that's a good strike a pose, dude. That's a good one. All right, let's work with this one. I want to come down from below, get a nice center. All right, it's going to take me forever to set up a center. Okay, I think I'm in the center now. That's pretty close, but This here, you can see just angling the camera. I took the camera down, angled it up a little bit. You can see how this is a very good angle, especially for a man if you want him to look more powerful, or if you ever do like superheroes or anything like that. Anything that you want to look kind of larger and more powerful, a lower angle will do that. It'll give your subject a little bit more power. Conversely, if you shift the camera over the sim and take it going down, it makes your sim or your person, this works for real life too, by the way, it'll make them look a little bit smaller. So that's just something to keep in mind depending on what you're going for effect. But what you can see here is just by lighting a single scene and creating a single scene and doing different poses, we can get a lot of images out of creating one scene. And obviously, you can just change up the scene. You can do poses against the wall. You can use these techniques for anything. Just your biggest thing is paying attention to how to light it, where to put the lighting, and where to set your sim up. And you can see that last image, I went right in the center with it because I wanted it to be really powerful. And the other images, I went into the thirds to make them a little bit more dynamic. So that's the composition piece. And for colors, it's good if you can have contrasting colors. Like I chose this blue because it looked pretty good against his skin. It was enough of a contrast. I love when I do very dark skinned sims. I love to play with oranges, yellows, lime greens. You can do a lot with dark skins. That's really cool. If you're working with very light skinned sims, you may end up with more winter colors, like more colors in that realm so that it's more contrasty. It just depends. But one thing, if you're ever unsure of your color blends, look at a color wheel. If you look at a color wheel, if you go opposites, they almost always work together. So like here, so you can see the orange and blue here, yellow and purple are really excellent together. Your red and green, this is why Christmas is always so good. Red and green is great together. So opposites work very well, and also adjacent colors. So can see that this has like three different reds over here. These three colors, if you put them all together, will look very nice. So things like this, if you pay attention to a color wheel, like if you want to put these three blues together, they'd look very nice together. Same thing with these colors here, look very nice together. And this goes for interior design as well. So some of you guys may already be aware of this and how to mix and match colors. So we've got a few images here, and I'm going to do a part 2 on this video for people that are interested on how I edit and enhance the images. I'm going to do it in Photoshop because as a photographer, that's what I use. It's what I'm most comfortable with, but you can very likely take most of the same techniques I'm going to use in that and transfer to whatever program you're most comfortable with. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be looking at next time. If you're interested, definitely don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. I'm going to put that out next week and we'll take a look at that. And I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, if there's anything else that I didn't cover that I could help you with, let me know down in the comments below. If you like this, if it was valuable at all, please don't forget to hit that like button and definitely comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank y'all so much for spending the time with me today. I do hope to see y'all back again next time. Bye now.